what I was going to do tonight, Barbara and our youngest son graduated from Pembroke in communications. And for his senior project, he did a documentary of Varnumtown, and where he went down and interviewed. And my dad is the main character in the whole thing. You'll get tired of hearing him talk. But anyway, he's so he did this, and he got all kinds of accolades for this little documentary that he did. But we'll show this, and then I'll talk a few minutes afterward, because this is about 24 minutes long. So.
You turn around and look for me. Take off your makeup, cut off your feather. Give all the light you gave me. You can't steal my heart, babe. I'll give it up, let 'em tell me.
I tell you what makes Varnumtown so special is family and the way of life. What makes it special? Everybody is whether they're kin to you or not, they're your best friend and your neighbor, and it's just a unique place. And there's probably few places left in the world that still has that community sense to it like Varnumtown does. And it's just a great place.
A lot of the memories I have here is, everybody, you were able to just ride the bicycle up and down the road. I mean, you go to, Bible school during the summers and ride your bike there, ride your bike home. All the kids get four-wheelers together, and we, ride up and down the road. I mean, we ride wide up and up down the road and have a good time with that. I mean, it's, you know almost everybody, so it's easy to, go out and not have to worry about anything.
Varnumtown, long time ago when I was a kid, like I say, nothing but sandy roads and only about 15 homes in the neighborhood. And but still during the Depression, we was rich compared with a lot of people because we had the river where we could go in the river and get oysters, we could get clams, we could get fish. Didn't know what pollution was. I never heard of the word. And you could get oysters 7 days a week, 365 days if you wanted them. So we were blessed. When I was a kid and during the Depression, I remember seeing them and people talking about soup lines in these cities and towns. Some of them 3 and 4 blocks long. I heard about people starving to death, didn't know, and didn't have no money. And we were blessed down here.
On better is all from the town and that cruise go anyway, so. But no money back then, you got a dog, it's good, but you got to meat, chicken, ducks, get anything in the trade. They can't, but getting close to Christmas time, that just morning up there, biggest uncle and my cousin, and old man Eddie Galway that was there and them, grandfather. And one or two more was staying with alcohol pretty good. He said, Claude, I mean, my dad's name. Said, Claude, how about, see if you can get us a little wine for Christmas? So we need some spirit.
It's about family. It's about small town community. It's about fishing and shrimping industry, which is pretty much a huge part of our history of living on the coast, and that's how a lot of people made their living over the years. And it's dying off. So it's interesting to see this community and see fishing and shrimping and living off land and how that's changed over the past 30 years of my lifetime. So.
I've seen a lot of boys go out of business. I've seen a lot of guys, I've seen the fuel prices really hurt over the last couple of years. This year, or last year when the fuel started coming down, it's made their profit margin a little bit better.
When we put this mess overboard, us between our cables and doors and nets, and time you put that mess overboard, you got $10,000 under the water and dragging for a $2 product. You got to catch a lot of shrimp to overcome the equipment you got underwater, not even counting the wear and tear on all the rest of your equipment and stuff. That's the main problem with us. Our equipment and everything costs so much. Like I said, if we had boat payments and all we're doing existing right now, maybe things will change in time, but I doubt it.
Well, the regulations really have, once you got the turtle shooters that go in the boat, we've been using those now for about 10 or 15 years. The fish eyes, we've been using, I guess, about that same that the bycatch go. All that, they've come a long way with that. It's not really hurt them. And it really helps them sometimes when they get into a lot of jetty balls and stuff. They can drag in different areas that they wouldn't be able to drag in.
They have one rule that I don't agree with. I'm 85 years old, and I realize they've got to have rules and regulations. But if a shrimper is shrimping and a flounder is under 14 inches and him wide, I can see putting him back overboard. But if he's dead, they still got to shove him on board, because if they keep him, it's over $100 fine. Keep one flounder under 14 inches. But that's a sin and a disgrace to keep to take fish that's dead and put them back in. They could have nothing else, bring them and give them to old age home, nursing home, give them people they need, but they won't do it. If the shrimper is caught with a fish flounder under 14 inches, and if you go to court, it's over $100 fine.
Trust me, you'll get a ticket from you bringing him in. And don't you think they won't catch you too? You mess with them wrong. But we like everybody else. Everybody's after us. You got the Coast Guard, you got the Wildlife, you got the Sheriff's Department, you got the State Patrol, and everything we do, we got all the law after us. So we got to be pretty well straight in our business. Not like a public job, shrimping. people work for shrimper, it's not a public job. They work for a percentage of what this boat makes. If they don't catch none, they don't make no money. And that makes it hard to recruit people too. They don't like to work that way.
You know, some of the boys that got out of it, you're, the better shrimpers are now the ones that are in it, you know, they were barely making it before, they're definitely out of business now. You got it under some boat. You do the right way.
Well, a few shrimpers are left for old. There are no new ones coming in. So all the boats are for sale. Can't get rid of any of them. So it's just a matter of time when all this will be over with. It won't last many more years the way it's going. Because all the old people will be out and the younger generation can't afford to get in because there's not enough money to live out of it.
It's weeded out the so-called shrimpers, what I say. People used to go out there and drag, you know, you can make a living when the fuel was real cheap. Everything was real cheap and still get by. Now with the prices of nets and everything going up, fuel going up, it's weeded a lot of them out. Which is probably good for the industry. Because now what you got out there now is your top of the line shrimpers and they know what they're doing, you know. I mean, really, it's really, you probably had too many boats in it. Well, I don't know about this area, but I know like in the Gulf, you've got all this boats that we used to have now. And the boats are still working now and do right well. Even if the shrimp prices are down, if fuel will stay down for them, they can still, they catch more, you know, still be all right.
And so this economy, people down here that built houses, on these beaches and in these neighborhoods, they were getting good money, carpenters, plumbers, painters, and all of them making good money, but then this housing is going to bad. So a lot of people in this area, a lot of people, in Brunswick County and other places is hurting. And I'm afraid it's gonna get worse instead of better for a while.
There's no work. I mean, you know, everybody you talk to, whether it's friends, family, relatives, whatever, you know, they've been out working, you know, for months. You know, I've talked to a few people that, you know, in the last 3 or 4 months, they've only had 2 or 3 jobs. Meaning, you know, building a porch here, or doing something there, you know, for construction. I mean, it's just, there's not much out there at all. I think, you know, the commercial fisherman industry probably took a hit, you know, a few years before this, but, you know, this is definitely probably hurt it.
Well, you build boats down here, let me put it this way. There was a boat building down here for years. Billy Varnum, Johnny Varnum, Clyde Varnum. Their father built boats down here, anywhere up to 80-foot shrimp boats. They couldn't build them fast enough. And people come here to shrimp and they can get good money, what we call a good price for shrimp, and fuel were down, the cost of down, cost no work, boat building was down. Boat building got so expensive now, the average person can't afford to build one.
I think the biggest thing is people down here know how to survive in tough times. I think most of them at one time or another have been through tough times in life. And the experience they've all gained there and the knowledge they've got of how to deal with situations like that is what's going to go through. And whether, you know, it's older folks that have more experience that can help young ones that have never been in this type of situation. You know, I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing that will help our community.
Brunswick County is a fast growing county and a lot of people are moving in. But there's no jobs here. Not enough jobs to take care of it. I've been told that the paper said there's an average of 10,000 people moving in Brunswick County every year. And I remember when the population in Brunswick County said it was only about 20,000. Now they say it's over 100,000. And so it ain't no industry here. Nothing for a lot of people to do. And so it's puts a hardship on people, a lot of people that's living even in Varnumtown here. We have they doing anything they can and having to leave out of the county to go to work. And some of them works in Wilmington, some of them works on tugboats, like I say, some anywhere that a lot of them, but just ain't that work in Brunswick County for. And but still, it's home, and I wouldn't trade 1 acre for the rest of the world I've seen. But that's Bobby Norton's daddy had that store built right there. He sold drinks and candy and stuff, and
There was a watermelon patch out there.
yeah,
Albert Stanley.
Albert Stanley.
Had a watermelon patch out
Yeah.
there, and me and Martin and Dougie went out there one night. They were gonna steal us some watermelon, and Uncle Curly came out there and saw us. And we laid down in the grass, and Uncle Curly came out there and put his foot right on my back and said, Lord have mercy. Where's those boys? I saw them out here stealing watermelon. And he knew good well it was us.
Yeah.
And he put his foot right on my back.
Oh. I'd say 175, 200 years old. Yes, it's at least that I can remember before. It was reason like the name Holden. I've been told that was the first buried here was a Holden. And a fellow by the name of Holden, what told Holden, give the land here. Of course, now Dixon Chapel owned a part on one side, and Gospel Center's got another piece over there. But some of these graves, I don't know how old they are. How did you want to cover the road or you didn't call back and forth? Yeah, where you want to arch your Holden, where you cross the back and forth. Yeah, where you want to arch the yonder, you plan you cross the back and forth. Oh, that's Alvin. That's Alvin Varnum. That's when the Archer killed 1940. May the 13th, 1940. Killed, that's when they called it Archer hole. Of course, Archer went down and drowned himself. And Archer gal was shot and killed out of Varnum down at the landing. And I don't know, that's been 1940. And then he got in his boat and went down to the edge of the marsh and tied some cinder block on his body and jumped overboard and drowned himself. That was May of 1940. That's Alvin Varnum there. And this here was a Varnum boy that my daddy said got bit by a black widow spider and he died when he was young. That was Daddy's brother. His name was Curtis. And my oldest brother Curtis was named after him. How do you know who this is? Dudley Jones. That was Carl Galwitz. That was Carl Galwitz, Malcolm's, Reeser, and Garton's grandfather. Great grandfather. Yeah, that was Carl and them's grandmother. And that was their grandfather there. Here, this here is what's the great uncle, Floyd Roosevelt Varnum. and he was born in 1907 and died in, what was it, 19, yeah. And that there's Uncle Johnny Varnum, Daddy's brother. And, when did he die, Howard? Yeah, 71 to 6 months different. They were brothers. But they was, my daddy's uncles. Uh, my daddy's brothers, I get them right, my daddy's brothers. And that's Grandpa Sam, right there, buried there. Right there, he's buried right there. Grandpa Sam. Yeah. His brother was Roland Varnum, the second one. And his daddy was called Roland Varnum, and he's buried at the River Run Plantation, in that cemetery over there.
They told me since I had the biggest mouth, that I had to welcome everybody. But it's good to have our family together. Varnums, Dixons, Rivenbarks, Browns, Galloways, Fullwoods, Lancaster, who do this? There's Thompson, Norton's. Anyway, thank you all for coming. This is great. Where it's, yeah, I got my instructions. Remind everybody needs to sign in, so we'll have the information who's here and who's not here, so we can talk about it. But this is great. I mean, it's good to be able to come home. It's good to be able to get together with our family and our friends, and this is good. Now, if we bow our heads, we'll say the blessing, and we'll go ahead and start eating, because I don't know about y'all, but I'm starving to death. Let's pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the good times that we have spent together. Thank you for the fellowship. We thank you for our family, whether all and our extended family, and the blessings that you've given us over the years, and the blessings that you're going to give us in the future. We now bless this food and the hands that prepared it, and us to thy service. All these things we ask in thy name. Amen. When you think of Varnumtown,
what do I think about? I think of home and all my family and growing up, and just a wonderful, big, safe family where, we had get-togethers all the time. We never kept doors locked, riding bicycles. It was just wonderful because everybody was kidding everybody, and life was just good.
All the loving arms, embracing strangers, treating them like their family. It's the dread.
it's named after my great-grandpa's son. That's made for space. That says the history, the heritage, and the family.
What do you want me to say? How much I love you? Okay. The people were wonderful. Everybody here is absolutely wonderful.
What makes Varnum special?
Oh, because all the Varnums live here. Oh, I love Varnumtown. I might go away from home and I might travel miles away, but I'm always at home when I get back to Varnumtown.
I thought he did a pretty good job. And he was just tickled to death to be able to interview his grandfather. And not going to get into a whole lot of details about the history of Varnumtown because, you know, my dad covered it pretty well about how poor everybody was, and this, that, and the other. But I will tell you just a little bit about the Varnums. The original Varnum that settled here, his name was Roland Varnum. His family were boat builders in Bowdingham, Maine. And he came to Southport, or came to southeastern North Carolina, to get a load of lumber, pine, longleaf pine lumber, to take back with him to use in the family business. Well, that didn't quite work out because the boat that he was on ran aground off Frying Pan Shoals, and he swam ashore on Ballhead and eventually made it over to Southport, but he never went back. So I don't know how distressed his family was in Bowdingham, if they ever found out that he made it, or we don't know. But this was according to Daddy that it had been handed down to him that he was shipwrecked on Frying Pan and swam ashore to Ballhead and made it over to Southport. Well, he lived in Southport for a while and got a job on one of the riverboats that carried cargo from Southport all the way up to Fayetteville, and they'd stop at different places along the way on the Cape Fear River. Well, it just happened so that one of the areas up in Columbus County, up around Buckhead, Carver's Creek areas, down in that area there, he met a Native American girl named Sarah Pridgett. And apparently they hit it off because they got married, and they moved, and she followed him to Brunswick County, and they lived at Southport for a little while. And in fact, they must have hit it off pretty good because they had they had 9 kids, and they had a house full. But Samuel Galloway Varnum was one of their children, and that was my great grandfather, and he married Sarah Royal, or some people said Daddy said Royals, but Gwen, is it Royal or Royals?
I think it's Royal, basically.
Yeah. So it's drop the S. Daddy would either add an S or an E, one or the other. But he in his writings that he had it as Sarah Royals, and they had Samuel Claude Varnum, which is my grandfather, and Granddaddy Claude married Mary Dixon, who was Albert and Cornelia Robinson's daughter. And of course, they had Ralph Varnum, and he married Beatrice Lancaster from over at Howes Point. And no needless to say, I didn't say Sunset Harbor. It's Howes Point still to me. But then I was the oldest of that. And then my sister Karen was my oldest sister Karen. She and I were the only two. And I married, of course, Barbara Gore, and from Brick Landing. And somebody asked me one time, why in the world was I going all the way from Varnumtown to Brick Landing to date somebody? I said, well, I had to go that far to find somebody who wasn't kin to. And when I get the first 2 or 3 times, you know, we started dating, and I found out she was a rich girl. They had a window fan. We didn't have air conditioning, but they had a window fan, and that was worth a lot right there. They even had indoor plumbing. So I knew I had to hang on to her. And then we have 2 sons named Adrian Varnum is our oldest, and he is married to Julie Parks from Regalwood. And Aaron Kenneth Varnum is married to Jasmine Addison from Wilmington. And they have a daughter named Freya Louise Varnum, and they live in Wilmington. So that is my length of my Varnum side of the clan. But my mother passed away in 2007, and my dad had retired for about the 14th time. Then he dredge boated, worked on shrimp boats, clammed, oyster, fish, you know, you name it. He whatever he did, it was around the water. And then he got tired of dredging, and he went to work for the county, and he worked in the maintenance department up at the complex, and he stayed there for 15 years and finally retired, and came home, and about a month after he was home, he decided he had to go back to work. So he went to work with my cousin, Gerald Kirby, exterminating, crawling under houses, doing the exterminating. So he did that for a couple of years until finally Gerald's crew came up to Gerald one day and said, Gerald, so you got to do something about Mr. Ralph. I said, what? He said, he's about to work us to death. We can't keep up with him. Daddy's in his he's about 80 by then. So he was something else. But I asked him one time, I said, Daddy, how come you've got 14 brothers and sisters, and all of them except 2 spell it Varnam? I said, why is there 2 U's in there? He said, back when all those kids were born, he said they were all born at home. And when they were born, the granny would write their name in the Bible, in the family Bible. And he said, son, they didn't complete the loop on the U to make an A like the rest of us. So they just didn't, and that's just the way it came out. But when my mother passed away in 2007, Daddy was home and didn't have a whole lot to do. But so Karen told him one day that, Daddy, why don't you write down a little bit of family history? Well, he started writing, and I brought it with me. That's part of it right there. And when I started reading it, I found out one thing, that I don't have a family tree. It's a vine. Because there's not but 2 branches on it, and that's Galloway and Varnum, and Lancaster is a sprig. So it was something going through all that stuff. But I'm telling you what, I wouldn't trade my childhood growing up in Varnumtown for anything. As it was mentioned on the video that Aaron had produced, I didn't ever remember Mom and Daddy's house being locked. I don't ever remember him taking the key out of his car. Car would be parked in the front yard, and I don't ever remember, because Daddy was scared, he's afraid he'd lose it. Keep it in the car. And he said nobody wants that old thing, but it was something else growing up down there. But just one piece of history about Varnumtown, and Daddy made mention of it 2 or 3 times in his writings here, and that was about Dixon Chapel Methodist Church. The land was donated by his grandfather, Mr. Granddaddy Albert, and Grandma Cornelia, and they donated the land and they built the church in 1922. The prior to that, Grandma Sarah Royal or Varnum and Mary was teaching Sunday school in their houses, and so and using Mr. Albert's front porch or Granddaddy Albert's front porch or whatever. But that's how the Dixon Chapel Church started. It was land donated by them. So and that was in 1922. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Or
What was, about when did Roland get down here?
it was about it. Well, Daddy said it was in the mid 1830s.
That one grave that you looked at when you were in the cemetery, I wrote it down, and it was 18 something 55. One of the person, yeah, the one he asked you to read, it was really old.
Yeah, that was I don't know which one it was. That might have been Granddaddy. That was Granddaddy Claude's. I mean Samuel G.
Yeah.
I think it was yeah. Yeah, he was a captain. Yeah, but there was 14 kids in Daddy's family, 11 kids in Mama's family, and when most of and she was a her mother was a Galloway, and she was born and raised at Howes Point, and the Lancaster that she married was from Howes Point, up on near Mill Creek. If y'all are familiar with I hate to say it, Sunset Harbor Road, right, and you can see Varnumtown across, that's Mill Creek, right there before you get to Cox's Landing and all of that. Well, that's where Grandma grew up. All of that, her family's plantation, her great-grandfather's plantation was basically ran from Mill Creek all the way to the ocean and over took in Sheep Island and Horse Island, all the way down to Locke's Fall Inlet. All of that was Cornelius Galloway. And they came here in the early 1700s. I think it was 1710, Joey Galloway was telling me. I think it was 1710 when they came to Brunswick County. So.
Which, Varnum, you talked about Roland, get shipwrecked and working in Southport, working on boats and beat, woman from Buckhead. And,
yep.
And was it he that settled in Varnumtown?
No, he first started out. He was living at Howes Point, and then he moved to Varnumtown later on.
Roland moved.
Yes, but there was some of his family, the Galloways and all that were already over there at that time.
People that he had intermarried.
Yes.
Through marriage.
Yes. And a lot of that, Ennis, you might know, Dixon, Uncle Shucky, Raleigh, all of them was Daddy's uncles. But who did most of that land belong to? The Dixons, or were your daddy's, or was that Mr. Jess Lancaster's property, or?
Mr. Jess owned the lot, but it wasn't down in the heart of Varnumtown, or Lancaster did.
Yeah, the Lancasters got here late 1840s.
Yeah. Okay.
What about today, how many ship builders or shrimpers, I guess, that are stationed in Varnumtown? Any?
There's, what, about 4 or 5 boats down there now? I think it's, yeah. The Galloways have, and Wayne Thompson keeps his boat down there. That was Uncle Arthur, Mama's brother's son's got his boat down there. Mark and Danny Galloway and
Gary Streets with Danny.
yeah, yeah. So it's dwindled right down.
I saw Danny Hewitt on there.
Yeah, he was he used to keep his boat tied up at Garland's. Yeah.
Yeah, I worked on the dredge with him.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to remember his daddy's name, do you?
No, I don't.
You didn't mention, Mr. Weston, but
Weston built a lot of the boats. Yeah. Well, Daddy and Weston were cousins. Yeah. Because Granddaddy Claude and Weston's daddy were brothers.
Weston's wife was first cousin.
Okay. Well, Barbara and I lived. When we got married in '72, we moved to Wilmington, and I started with the Corps of Engineers shortly after I got out of school. I went to Cape Fear Technical Institute back then and got a degree in marine technology. Went to work with the government. Barbara's dad figured that he couldn't get rid of me, so he insisted that I go put in a job application with the government. Like he was working, he was the inspector on the Dredge Merritt, sidecaster that works in the shallow draft inlets, and so he
My uncle was captain on there. Louis Hope.
Yep. So he carried me over there one day and introduced me to Alan Grimstead and told Alan that he wanted him to look out for me and if there was anything he could do. And so I started October the 20th, 1970, with the Corps of Engineers, and I retired from the Corps of Engineers in February the 2nd, 2007. So I had 37 and a half years in, and I started out with the survey crew and ended up being the chief of navigation for the Wilmington district, responsible for the surveying and the shallow draft dredging fleet and all of that, preparing the plans and specs for the dredging of the Wilmington district has 1,500 miles of navigable federal channels in the state of North Carolina. And they also have 2 deep water ports that has to be maintained by the dredges and so forth. And that's the port of the Cape Fear River, Port of Wilmington, and the Port of Morehead. Now, the Morehead City is a deeper channel. It's a deeper authorization. It's a 50-foot project, but there's no rock in that. It's sand, and it's a natural harbor coming in there around the Fort Macon area, and it's a whole lot deeper than it is. And of course, Southport's a natural harbor too, but it's a lot of hard rock from the Bar Channel coming in all the way up to Wilmington. It took a lot of dynamite to.
I worked on the blasting.
Yep, to this last go around, and a lot of rock tore a lot of teeth off cutter heads on dredges. I can tell you that. But I had an interesting career with the government. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Ennis and I worked together for 15 years?
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'll give them 30.
yeah. But then
You'll have to remember when they started the ferry, the Southport Fort Fisher Ferry, do you?
no, I don't. I work with the Ferry Division very closely on all of their dredging projects up at Ocracoke and Swan Quarter Ferry and all of that. Did a lot of work with them on that, but I don't remember what year it was. I did help them work in designing their disposal area that they've got right across the creek from Price's Creek Lighthouse to hold the dredge material to dredge when they dredge that thing out. But I don't remember what year it was.
I think my uncle went from the Merritt to captain of the ferry.
Yeah.
Captain of the ferry until I think he got close to 70 years old and made him retire.
Yeah. Well, after Barbara and after I retired in 2007, Barbara was still working at the hospital, and in 2000, and Barbara just came home and she said, let's go ahead and move back to Brunswick County. Well, her daddy gave us 6.5, almost 7 acres of land down at Brick Landing. So we said, okay, we'll sell what we got in Wilmington. And she said, I'm almost retirement age. She'll drive back. So 2 years? 3 years. She drove back and forth from Brick Landing to Wilmington to the hospital. But we came back home and we built our house down right in the middle of that 7 acres. And it was a joy. But then in 2009, got a phone call from the Corps, and they said, could we talk you into coming back for 6 months? I said, for what? They said, well, the guy, Roger Bullock, the guy that took my job when I retired, has been deployed to Afghanistan. And we need for you to come fill in for him for 6 months. I said, I'll do it. I said, on one stipulation. They said, what's that? I said, I'm not going to work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I said, it's going to kill me to have to drive to Wilmington. And during that time is the time that they were doing all that road work between Leland and Wilmington. And so I'd have to leave home at 5 o'clock in the morning in order to get to the office because the traffic would be backed up to Timbuktu. I mean, you couldn't get out of there. So I went to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I told them, I said, now don't get in my way. Don't stand in front of my truck at 3 o'clock because I'm out of here. I said, I'm gonna beat that traffic where I can get out of all this mess, you know. So, but that ended up being 4 years. I said that's the longest 6 months I have ever seen in my life. So in 2014, I finally came back home, and and Barbara, she was retired, and at that time, were you working at the nuclear plant then? She decided she got tired of me, and so she went to work at the nuclear plant as their nurse down there for. So anyway, we've had quite a career. We certainly have. But anyway, if that's.
Tell us one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Why are we not going to get the hurricane?
Why are we not going to get the hurricane? You got a high pressure cell that's over Tennessee, and you got a high pressure cell on the other side of Bermuda. They're going to come together, and it's going to push it between Bermuda and the United States, and we're not going to get any of it.
And you said you were using what kind of equipment?
So I've got a program on my computer at home that we use on all the dredges that we had with the Wilmington district that loaded up, and that's exactly how it shows it going. So